Ladies and gentlemen, this just in. Chad Duplantis, man, marsupial, or legend of Greek mythology? I'm glad you tuned in to Dennis in the Know because you're going to find out the answer to that question and many more tonight. It's Wednesday, gang. It's after work time, but more importantly, it's hump day. That means it's time for happy hour with the Dinks. Welcome to Dennis in the Know. This is your backstage look at current trends, politics, and education. It's all in the dental world. It's all live, and it's over. You know what?
It is all live, right? I mean,
It is.
It is
You
finally live.
Live-ish.
Every week. It's something.
And we have a red solo cup this week. I'm Dr. Jeff Horowitz. Next to me is that gal, Dr. Jennifer Bell, and that guy, Dr. Chad Duplantis. We're all practicing dentists. We are all educators. We are all business owners, and our job is to bring you in the know. How's it going, guys?
It's good. Are you okay, Chad?
I'm so sick of this. I really am, but I am okay.
It just shouldn't be this hard every week. You know, you establish a situation, you're going to use that platform, and then we go. And then
we got to get a new IT department is what I'm thinking. I think we just, I think we can the whole department and start fresh.
Maybe we stop with the volunteer support. We need to get paid. We love you, Chad. You're doing a great job.
It's just crazy. I mean, what the heck happens every night? Sorry, everybody, we're late.
That's okay. Better late than never. I've made a whole career of that.
That is actually factually true.
No, I'm sorry. I was a little preoccupied. I was trying to send our guests the link. So we finally got it.
Doing that. Otherwise, it's just all the crap that we have to say. And
so which one is it, Chad? Man, marsupial, or legend of Greek mythology?
I'm going to go with legend of Greek mythology.
I would have to. Yeah.
Okay. That's a good pick.
A marsupial's cool, but
how cool. I love bags. I love having stuff that I can carry other stuff in.
You want a permanent fanny pack?
How cool would that be? I think I'm going with marsupial.
Okay.
Over Greek mythology.
Yeah, why not?
Like controller of lightning and
yeah, maybe. I don't know. Some funny stuff happened there too. So. You know, if you stay out of it altogether, nothing bad can happen.
Yeah. Fair.
Very true. Very true. How was everybody's week?
Oh, it's cuckoo, man.
Why?
It just is. It's crazy. The world is as open as it's ever been. Everybody wants everything yesterday. It's still taking a long time to get stuff back and get stuff in and back orders. And it's a tough world right now. I mean, thank God we're in a lot better place than we were last year at this time. But what a complete 180 it is from this time last year where we're just like, I want to be really busy again, but I don't want to be pulling my hair out. Right. And I feel like that's what it's been here lately. So, good problem to have. But how about you guys?
JB?
I could not agree with that sentiment more. And I remember reflecting back during COVID and saying, I just want to harness some of this moving forward. I don't want to be as busy. I want to be more connected and less dialed into work, and all the things. And I'm homeschooling the kids and we're raising crops in the backyard. Like we're in it. Who has time for any of that now? It's 10x, maybe not 10x, but it's 100% all on board, dialed in again, work, and activities, kids' activities, like all the stuff is
so many activities
with a vengeance. Anyway, I just I wish that we had there's some really good things that came out of COVID. I wish we had figured out a way to capture a few of those in a bottle and say these are my non-negotiables. I do think some businesses for instance, we stopped doing late hours, which I will never regret, being a working mom. So I do think good things came from it. Others were just lightning in a bottle and never to be seen again. So,
one of the things that came from COVID.
Dennis in the know.
Dennis in the know.
Beautiful marriage of people.
It couldn't be all that bad, could it?
No. Well,
Chad, what's your week been like?
It's like you guys, busy. It was a busy weekend here. My eldest graduated, so that was
that's right.
Pretty emotional ride this past weekend, and then came back, and today is the first day of my partner being gone for a month because he's having double knee replacement.
And then you're leaving tomorrow.
Yeah. So June is going to be crazy, and it's it's fine. We just talked about scheduling a little bit differently, and I think you look at things financially. Our practice is in a position that we haven't been in quite some time. We've had a couple of really busy months. It's like the perfect storm. If you had to take off, now's a really good time.
Good.
So we're just going to get through it, and it'll be fine. And hopefully July will be here quick. Because
I don't know. We're gonna maybe we start our own little locum tenens thing, because my associate Kara is going out on maternity in July.
Right.
She's getting ready to have her first baby. So as excited as I am for her and being Uncle Jeff again, I am. I'm so worried because she's such a part of that practice now, and she is there more on a daily basis than I am at this point at the Conway office.
You're going to have to do a class 2 again. I
know it's coming. It's coming.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Ooh, I'm so nervous.
If I'm being honest, I'm praying for a subgingival one. If I'm being real with myself right now, I want you to sweat it out just a bit. Just a skosh.
I got this. What I don't want to do is I just want to have a month where I don't lock anything on. I just don't want to lock anything on that whole time she's gone.
That would be a good month.
That's more my area of expertise.
I know we've had this conversation. Yeah.
So don't be stealing my thunder.
Okay.
I'm in here with your stories.
Sorry. So Canadian, sorry. Can I say that now? I mean, I know we have to be really careful what we say. I can say Canadian sorry, can I?
One of our guests is Canadian, so you might offend them.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I think that's, well, at least he lives in Canada. I don't know if he's Canadian. We'll have to ask Sheldon when they're on.
Well, I don't know if he's really polite, really polite, even when we're not nice, then he's Canadian.
That's right.
Pretty much.
Yeah. We'll give him that. Yep.
It's a given. All right, guys. So we have another terrific show for you tonight. I know many of you guys out there have thought about providing a liner therapy in your practices. As many of you know, I've been doing ortho and Invisalign in my practice for about as long as I've been practicing. It's been a big part of my general practice career, but most general practices don't want to do that simply because they lack the confidence in orthodontic training and orthodontic knowledge. But getting started doesn't have to be intimidating, as I'm sure JB and Chad will be able to attest to. But we are talking tonight to a really neat crew from Clear TPS, and they're a company dedicated to making dentists successful with aligner therapy. And I'm real excited to hear from them. JB and Chad have both worked with this company, and they just can't rave enough about them. So I'm really excited for all of you to hear from them. But before we do that, I think we have some news in store for us, don't we, JB?
Of course, we always have news.
Well, sometimes you're like, I don't have any news, guys. What do you want me to talk about? And we're like, you'll find something.
I'll make
you
it
always
up.
do.
That's
Yeah.
what girls do. And
Go get 'em, JB.
of course, I'm going to come up with something to talk about. So I think the two things I would like to mention. Number one, I have a final follow-up with my vaccinated patient with the oral lesion. The lesion is gone after PBM treatment, completely resolved, asymptomatic. It took, it was 6-8 weeks presented before we got involved. So that's really cool. If that becomes a treatment modality for, these side effects that may arise from anything, frankly, but just most recently from the vaccine, then we play a role in that process. So hopefully we'll all continue to share those observations and treatment modalities so that when patients do show up in our office, that we have some idea of what we may be able to do as clinicians. So I think that's really cool. And I think right now we're really dependent on each other. There is no, there's no database that I can go to. There's no scientific journal yet that we can go to and say oral manifestations of these vaccines or even COVID, frankly, and how do we treat and keep comfort for patients while they're going through those particular things. So we have to very much do peer-to-peer communication and documentation so that we can build that database. So,
well, JB, I hope you documented it all along the way with photographs. Yeah. So that'd be really neat to show one night. I'd love to see that.
You got it. We'll do that. So the next thing that I thought, because we're doing a clear aligner show and oddly enough, it's only been a few days since Patterson signed a pretty significant deal with Smile Direct Club. So I thought we could open the conversation. I think the landscape of clear aligner therapy, DIY orthodontics, has really become interesting in the last, well, we could probably go back to Smile Direct Club coming online, but let's say when the patent ran out with Invisalign in 2017. So the landscape has changed and what is available to consumers has changed. This latest move with Patterson going into partnership with Smile Direct Club, I think caught a lot of people off guard, and definitely brought some conversations to light that,
I don't know, and I'm just gonna be frank here and saying a landscape where you're maybe losing friends. Do you want to throw away more friends? Again, I have no dog in this fight, but but I have to say I can't imagine that being a great decision, but that's just opinion, not fact of any kind.
Agreed. And I actually brought that, I went straight to my Patterson rep and I said, what do you know? And it seems, my point to him was simply that no one was ahead of the PR campaign on that. And, I do have to reflect back on Invisalign doing a Smile Direct Club and actually having some, whatever their financial partnership was with Smile Direct when they first came out. And certainly they were using a lot of their technology. And when they ceased that relationship, a lot of it came back to Align wanting to repartner with doctors. But it hurt the relationship between Align and the doctor.
Oh, and it took them a long time to get that back, to get a lot of that back.
I think they're there, and I think that they're showing the support. And I've met with enough people at Align at this point to feel validated in the idea that they're supporting GPs and orthodontics, that they want doctor-led care. But the market share would tell you otherwise. And it wasn't that long ago that Dentsply bought Bite. So there's a lot of big players trying to move into the DIY orthodontics. So it's definitely something to watch. If you're an investor, probably worth investing in at this point. I heard a really interesting podcast not that long ago, actually 2 hours ago, about clear aligner investment and what it looks like in the market. If you're really into investor type podcast and listening to that. That was really fascinating of what that aligner market looks like in the consumer world. So I don't know. And then we can't not mention the fact that Dentsply also just went into partnership with Propel and Trios as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think that it's important as doctors that we are aware of the relationships. It doesn't mean it's good or bad, but I think being an informed consumer of who's working with who and how the money is getting funneled around. And I do think that as consumers of all of that technology, that it, you know, let's just say you particularly don't like a company, but then you buy the technology that they're somehow funding or partnering with on the side. I think we should know that. But the landscape's changing really fast, really fast.
That's why we are dentists in the know. We're trying to bring everyone in the know about these things.
And this partnership with Propel and Trios is like fresh off the press.
I knew it was, because we actually do Propel. We do the accelerator and the V5, and it's a great product, but
also just bought Bite to take direct to consumer orthodontics. So, it's really difficult now to pick your friends, frankly.
Right. But I've seen big companies and Dentsply, several others. I've seen really big companies invest in some of these, I don't want to say smaller, but they are smaller companies or more specialized companies, take on the product and then say, you know what? It really wasn't worth us getting into. I watched it with 3M with the mini implants. I watched it with Dentsply with some of their laser lines and AMD, where they get in, they don't really nurture that part of the business. And so you really do. You need to be aware of who is investing in these companies and what their plans are. I mean, this is why that interpersonal relationship is so important. And I don't care how much stuff you buy on the internet. You've got to have some relationships in the dental marketplace to know what's going on.
Can you all hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, sorry. My Ethernet cable came out, and last time it happened, y'all couldn't hear me, so I wanted to make sure. But I agree with everything that you're saying.
Which was what, Chad? I'd like a recap.
About how we need to know
do that, JB.
What companies are investing in what, the people that we do relationships with.
You're so smart.
Yeah.
After all.
Anyway, I thought that was really interesting, and that is the news today. There's not been we're still waiting for our OSHA update. I mean, they're only 18 months behind, so it's another couple weeks.
Yeah. Well.
Be on the lookout. June is going to be a major vaccine push from the federal government. So how that will impact dentists who are vaccinating and what communication will come from them, we'll see. But so that's going to be a big push. Lots of general news coming out in the last couple of weeks that I continue to consume on a daily basis. But we'll keep it dental related today.
That sounds good. Well, JB, great job as always. We got off to a little bit of a late start.
That's right.
So I don't want to waste any more time getting our next guests on. Chad, would you do the honors of introducing our next guests? And honestly, it couldn't be more timely, could it?
You bet. And so what I'm going to do is I want to make an announcement that after our guest, we do have a little bit of fun from another friend of ours in the dental industry. Jeff,
this is going to be the apex of my whole night.
Yes. And yes. And so what I'm going to do, Jeff, I'm going to minimize you. And I'm going to bring on 2 of our 3 guests, and then I'm going to minimize one of them. But I want to introduce, we have to play rotating people just because of the way that this goes. So Jeff, stay tuned and just listen. I'm here. Our guests are all from Clear TPS, but I'd like to first introduce Sheldon, and I'm going to introduce Nick. And I'm going to just because we did have a bit of a Canadian debate. So Sheldon and Nick, and then I'd like to bring Dr. Garro in just a second. So Sheldon, your role is you are founder and CEO?
Yes, sir. Founder and CEO of Clear TPS.
All right. And Nick, what is your role?
Director of Operations for Sheldon at Clear TPS.
Awesome. Well, okay. Nick, we just have a debate to settle. Are you Canadian?
I don't know what I am. Let's see. I was born in Germany, Canadian citizen, lived in Texas for 17 years. What am I?
Oh,
right.
Texan.
Yeah, you're Texan. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Once a Texan, always a Texan.
Long debate. But anyways, Nick, you're great with this company, and I just thought that we should at least show your face and introduce you, and thank you for being here. We are only allowed 4, and I think you wanted Dr. Garro to speak because she could probably speak a little bit more clinically than you could. So I'm going to minimize you and bring Dr. Garro in, and then Sheldon, I'll let you introduce Dr. Garro.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys, and thank you for having us. It's a real pleasure to be with you tonight. And yeah, I'll go ahead and introduce Dr. Garro. Dr. Garro is our clinical director and lead orthodontist, and she is responsible for leading our world-class team. And she does an incredible job. Dr. Garro and I had the pleasure of working together at Align Technology in Europe. And I always love to share this story because we had the good fortune to be on what we call the European leadership team. And the European leadership team consisted of all commercial folks, meaning sales, marketing, finance, and then there was Dr. Garro. And it was a lot of fun. We learned a lot, and we kind of crossed paths again. Once I started Clear TPS back in 2012, she transitioned out of the organization from Align, and we scooped her right up, and that was about 8 years ago. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, we're honored to have both of you all, and I know that JB and I both have some stories about when we've worked with you all and some of the cases you've helped us with, but tell us a little bit about your vision and Clear TPS and why you created Clear TPS.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, working for the Align organization, we learned a lot. And I started out in the sales field as a territory manager. And I literally remember my first day out in the field. 2 things happened. The first was a doctor put a set of models in front of me and asked me if it was a good Invisalign case. Of course, I said yes. Then he proceeded to walk me over to the computer screen, and where he had a ClinCheck up, and asked me why the case didn't finish the way he thought it would. And so that was my first experience. This is back in 2007. And, you know, really the years following, I just saw repeatedly the struggles that so many doctors went through, saw the same thing while I was in Europe. And the common thread was the ClinCheck treatment plan. The digital treatment plan was what the majority of doctors, and not just general dentists, orthodontists as well, you know, really struggled with the treatment planning part of the process. And working so closely within the Align organization, what I discovered at a certain point was that this was not something that Align Technology, as the manufacturer of the Invisalign device, was really interested in. And once I fully discovered that, I made the decision, along with my co-founder and business partner, to launch Clear Treatment Planning Solutions back in 2012. And it was really with the intention, you know, just to help doctors get more predictable clinical results. And here we are 10 years later, still talking about it. And we're fortunate to be working with doctors in almost 30 countries. So we have an incredible global footprint. And we recently hit another milestone. We've actually optimized more than 300,000 clear aligner cases. And it's been quite a journey, very, very humbling. And yeah, we have a great team. and we love the doctors that we work with, and we're so pleased to be here with you guys, and thank you for your trust in us in letting us manage your cases.
It's an honor, but I'll tell you one of the best things, for people who are Invisalign providers, let's say, or any clear aligner provider, but you go and I always tell my patients, I was like, there's several sizes to choose from: small, medium, large, extra large, and even the extra large. And I said, and you get through this and it's a little bit overwhelming. They all have a different price tag, and so you've got to make sure that you account for that. But for the novice users, it's hard to decide. You want the patients to get as good of a result as they can and as few of trays as they can, which minimizes their cost and your cost, et cetera. But it's hard to choose. And you guys are great in helping us decipher that right off the bat, and then take it one step further and go through the ClinCheck. And it's just been fantastic. So, Dr. Garro, I'm assuming you lead the team that goes through the ClinChecks. Oh, hold on. I got her now. She can talk. There you go.
Yeah. So hi, thank you again for having me. Yes, we have a great team. Our team is the 100% clinicians, and we've had the fortune, as Sheldon said, to put together a world-class team. We have clinicians that have been working on the aligner area for more than 10 years. And we make sure that we keep ongoing weekly orthodontic trainings for our clinicians. Some of them are orthodontists and some of them are GPs. But we make sure that our team is fully knowledgeable on all of orthodontic diagnosis and treatment planning, not only for clear aligners, but for different techniques, so that we help them make the best decisions for our customers.
That's great. I mean, you all have done a fantastic job and certainly put a lot of time and effort into the ClinChecks. I mean, I'm always blown away with all of your notes and requests and modifications and attachments and whatnot. And I mean, I would think it'd be safe to say, JB, disagree with me if you want to, but that most dentists are like, I just want straight teeth, and that's it. This is what we want to accomplish without screwing up the occlusion. And I mean, I'm always amazed at how much. It's like when you send a CBCT off to be read, all the things that they find that you don't, you all find so many things that sometimes dentists overlook. JB?
I agree 100%. Maybe mine's not as simplistic as yours, but
I didn't say mine was. I just said the majority of dentists.
It was a bit what you hinted at. No, I'm kidding. But what they're able to do that is utilize the 3D tools, which I think, and I'm specifically referencing Invisalign because that's what I use. So forgive me for those who use other aligner companies. But the 3D tools can be challenging to learn all the nuances of how things are manipulated through, and also how to communicate to a technician and use the type of language that they will understand to do what you want them to do. So I can say, I want this, this, and this to happen, but how that is translated or interpreted from a technician isn't always exactly what I had intended. So Dr. Garro and her team have a better way of communicating that, and also are more comfortable with the 3D tools to manipulate and move things around. So what they can't communicate, they visualize, and then what they need to use language for, that they can type that out. So that's very helpful. I learn a lot just reading your clinician notes and what you're communicating to the technician, because as a GP, I don't know if I'd feel as empowered to do the same. And so it's been an incredible learning experience for us, but it's also enabled us to be able to take on cases that as a GP, I wouldn't have had the comfort of doing. And so for that, I thank you. I'd like to talk a little bit about, when you onboard clinicians, you also put them in a bit of a master program to sort of dive a little bit deeper. So let's talk a little bit about that. I participated in that program as well. I learned a tremendous amount about how that communication happens. And so tell our viewers a little bit about what that program entails and what you hope to accomplish during that.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of trying to teach the doctors what is the process that we go through and we manage in every single case before we create a final optimized ClinCheck. So usually when the doctors send a case, they're looking at the teeth on the screen, and they often forget that first you need to do a very comprehensive diagnosis and understand the malocclusion before you make the decisions on the screen. So that's what happens. And it happens for different reasons. It happens sometimes because the doctors are still learning the technique, sometimes because doctors are learning about orthodontics, sometimes because doctors don't know how to communicate the best way, and sometimes because all of the previous ones.
Yeah.
Yes. So we piece out all the different pieces of each case. We understand what happened, why is the patient having crooked teeth, why, if there's a deep bite, what caused the deep bite, what bones did not grow properly, is, everything that has to do with the skeletal biotype of the patient and the components of the malocclusion. We often get lost in just seeing, the patient has a space or this tooth crowded and rotated, and then we forget there's a reason behind that tooth being malpositioned. So that's what we do with every single case. We evaluate all the steps from A to C about the case. Then when we have a very good understanding about the malocclusion, we make the decisions and we remove any unnecessary movements. We add the necessary movements, and that's how we do our optimization. So the masterclass is a little bit of a live webinar. It's a chat, it's a class in which we can teach you exactly what was the process that we did with your particular case. It's more fun when we are able to do the masterclass with 2 or 3 doctors, because we can share one case from each doctors and they all can learn. Some doctors prefer to have the masterclass with, only them checking a couple of cases. But either way, it's a great educational class. It's some very good time spent in learning, and each ClinCheck is a huge learning opportunity in which not only you can understand what happened with that particular case, but it teaches you a lot for future ones.
I learned a lot, and something as very dumb as pulling a patient's hair back for the profile pic and how you use that information to make clinical decisions. I see the patient, so I'm able to garner information from a personal observation, but then understanding how that translates into a digital world, and you don't have the patient right in front of you, and you didn't sit there and talk to the patient for 60 minutes before that data was uploaded, means you're at a slight disadvantage. And so how imperative that information is when you're uploading it to share it from a digital perspective. I learned a tremendous amount from that class. And I also think understanding how we truly integrate digitally, and this is what the DIY guys and all the clear aligner companies are out there doing. How do we make sure that the data that you're receiving is the best and most accurate information that we have available to us? So I think there's still so much to be learned with how we communicate as clinicians who are seeing the patient in person, to you who's in Costa Rica trying to surmise all of that information from photos and an iTero or digital scan. There's still so much to be learned.
Yeah, I think one of the funniest things I've seen repeatedly throughout the years is that when doctors are starting their learning curve with orthodontics and clear aligners, something really funny happens. As soon as they see the teeth on the screen, they forget about the patient. And then they just get so looking to, but the midline, oh my God, the midline's not perfect. And then they forget there's the patient is class 2. You're not going to get the midline right. And then just the doctors lose so much time focusing on exactly the details on the screen, and they forget to even open the images that are right there in the software. And, so that's one of the things that you need to sometimes remember. There was a patient that you met, that you talked to, that you took those pictures from, and as soon as you zoom out of that 3D model on your screen and you remember everything else, and then you do an accurate evaluation, then better decisions come out.
Yeah, and straight teeth, when you bring them down and not right in the face, the patient isn't happy. So you have to factor in all the components, right? Otherwise, yes, they are straight, but geez, they walk in the room before you do. So we definitely don't want that. So let's talk a little bit about, because, in the news we mentioned now another company partnering with DIY orthodontics and clear aligner therapy. Let's talk a little bit about, if you want to have an opinion about it, we would love to hear it. But, just the conversations we're having now validate, I think, the doctor relationship in managing care and observing all those things, not to even mention screening for periodontal disease and caries and all the other stuff that happens prior to putting aligners on teeth. That's a whole separate conversation. But just the complexity of assessment of cases, and even qualified clinicians who see thousands of patients, a year and are turning all this, always have something to learn. And yet, somehow magically these things are going to happen through a computer and an assessment tool. So can you talk a little bit about, because we only see it from our perspective, right? That, DIY orthodontics, and we clean up some of the messes and, all the other stuff, but would love to hear your perspective on that.
Well, I can tell you that one thing for certain is that there are no teeth alike. There's no patient alike. There is every single mouth is completely different. So that's one thing. Even with twins, with identical twins, which is, I really love when I receive cases from identical twins everywhere in the world. They're always different. And that's one thing. Then the second thing is that the evaluation from a clinician on every single malocclusion is priceless. And I think that it cannot be, it cannot be done by not even artificial intelligence, which is now so much out there. It can help you a bit, but you could never really replace the eye of the clinician. Now, having said that, the clear aligner softwares have been manufactured or have been developed to align teeth. And that's the truth, right? So you have a tooth, mesial distal, you click a button and an arch form snaps in and suddenly the teeth are aligned. But, that is only one piece of the whole puzzle. Everything else is still missing. So in Clear, we have received many cases from patients from everywhere in the world that finally reach a physician, that they go into the dentist office to, because they have something that went really wrong with DIY aligners. So I have seen nothing but trouble. And just like all of you, we are the ones that are experts. We know that teeth are not alone in the mouth. They need to bite with the opposite arch. They need to have mesial distal surfaces. The occlusion needs to be evaluated, habits, everything else. So it's a whole group of things that a patient absolutely will never be able to tell, and a software cannot tell either. So very respectfully of the companies that do that. For me as a clinician, I'm really opposed to that. I really hope that somewhere or someday we can put a stop to that.
Sheldon, what do you see from a market landscape, from the business side?
Yeah, I think from an industry perspective, first, I couldn't agree more with what Dr. Garro says from a clinical perspective, and we see it all the time, as I think you guys do as well. And I think a lot of clinicians on the call have experienced something related to, a failed DIY case. And I think from an industry perspective, it's what I find most interesting is how now I think the majority of the DIY companies are coming full circle, and they're wanting to have a seat at the table on the practice side of the business. And you kind of have to ask yourself why. I'm not saying I know the answer. I just find it ironic, and I find it very interesting. And so I think, if anything, it says I think it validates the fact that there's a lot wrong with that model. And knowing what we know so intimately about clear aligner treatment and what the demands are, where the majority and frankly all of the clear aligner manufacturers are coming up short, and where they're coming up short, and Dr. Garro mentioned it, and Jennifer, I think you alluded to it as well, where they're coming up short is they're not in any way, shape, or form diagnosing the case. And at the end of the day, the manufacturer, the clear aligner manufacturer, is the clear aligner manufacturer. So they explicitly say in their terms and conditions that they don't provide any sort of healthcare advice or diagnosis. So that's the big missing piece. And so how does that play out on the DIY end of the spectrum? I mean, it certainly can't be better. I think for all intents and purposes, it can only be worse. But in terms of the trends, Jennifer, to your question, and I think you guys mentioned a little bit about some of the market activity in that realm. One that I think is particularly noteworthy is Dentsply Sirona. They invested into the space. You may be familiar with this. Is just a few months ago, a company called Byte. And to the tune,
a significant investment
of $1 billion.
Yeah.
And it's really just mind blowing. And of course, you can make the argument that they were overvalued and whatever. But I think the bottom line is there is, I think it's a kind of a shiny penny kind of scenario. And I think it's kind of where all the eyes are, all the eyes of the investors. I routinely participate in consulting calls with investors and hedge funds, specifically related to the topic of the clear aligner space, specifically in the DIY realm. And, I personally think that it's a very short-sighted vision. When it'll end, who knows? I think there's still a little bit of road to cover. But I think all roads will lead back, and rightly so, to the practice where treatment should be taking place. I also happen to believe that we as a company and as a support model will have an integral part in those roads leading back to the practice as well.
I agree with you 100%, but obviously I'm a bit biased, right? I want all roads to lead back to the clinicians just because the global approach, as Dr. Garro mentioned, it's seeing the whole person, knowing the habits, the challenges, the emotional and psychological issues that are going along with the case, not to mention disease. Then you can start to get into the disease process. Let's add in, as our colleague, Dr. Horowitz, is super passionate about, let's add sleep in there. And the worst thing you could do is collapse the airway in a process of trying to get straight teeth. But clinicians are dialed into that far better than, someone taking their own impression and sending it off just to get the aesthetic value of clear aligner therapy. And I think the only concern that dentists have in general is the continual observation that we are a commodity, and that, we fit into the same space as other consumable goods, and clear aligner therapy is now yet another commodity within our workspace that, we could be X'd out from that equation for a cost savings perspective. And the consumer loses in that, and I'm all for innovation and for seeing things differently. And I love driving costs down because that makes treatment more approachable for all patients who come in. So I'm not adverse to change and challenge of any market space. I embrace that thoroughly. I don't embrace it at the consequence of the patient. And that's where I think the DIY market has really pushed the boundaries of what's an acceptable way to treat humans. So,
yeah, and if you consider the fact that I think for all intents and purposes, most people would agree that clear aligner orthodontics is still really in its infancy. And so, you know, there's still so many unknowns. There's still so many missing pieces, as I said before. And then to kind of perpetuate that into, you know, a direction where there's even more chance for, let's start with misdiagnosis, then it's kind of downhill from there. So I think fundamentally there are a lot of issues, there are a lot of concerns, and yeah, well stated.
So, are you done, Jennifer?
never, but I will give you the mic.
Just curious. All kidding aside, you guys have done just such a fantastic job. I love how it's kind of a village approach to treating our patients. And JB and I were talking this morning about there are some cases that, you know, some of the Align companies say, you know, oh, a general dentist shouldn't tackle this or shouldn't tackle that or whatnot. And I think that our comfort level increases a little bit with knowing that you all are there. There's a case that I took on that I just you know, approved the ClinCheck last week, and it was a case that you all helped me treatment plan, and I really feel very confident in treating this case. So truly appreciate what you all have done, and I hope that other dentists and clinical faculty will start looking into what you all do to help their confidence level increase as well. So I posted a link in our comments, and, you know, would love for you guys to post a little bit more about what you do tomorrow, and so we can share it with people. Feel free to engage with some of our users when, you know, aligner questions do come up, but, you know, love what you all are doing, and thank you. And Dr. Garro, you're amazing. You got a great team, and Nick, you obviously know how to get the right people. So kudos to you.
Thank you so much.
One of the other things I would say, just as, you know, my own observation in this process, is I always struggle with finding enough hours in the day to manage all the things that I'm doing. So I'm a GP, right? So I'm managing Invisalign cases, I'm designing crowns, I'm, you know, you're doing all of the things. And so it not only gave me confidence, but it also allowed me to delegate. You're just like, you're another employee of my team who's now taking on the responsibility of walking that ClinCheck through 1, 2, 3, 4 reiterations of a really good ClinCheck. And that takes time out of my day to sit down and call through my ClinChecks and make modifications and decide, you know, how do I want to treat? Where do I want to move forward? And so, you know, for busy clinicians who, you know, in my own personal situation is a busy working mom of 3, just like really wanting to punch out and go home and not be there till 9 o'clock reviewing ClinChecks and trying to catch up on all the non-direct patient care things that need to be done. I appreciate you having you on the team, because I have confidence in giving that to you and saying, get me close, get me to where I feel comfortable. We can make final modifications at the end if we need to, but I need your help from a time management perspective so that I can continue to do the care that I want to do. So yeah. I know we've talked a lot about clinical, but I can't help but also tout the benefit of having that type of support when I need to have help.
Yeah.
You know?
And if I could comment on that, Jen, thank you for bringing that up, because that becomes more of a legacy play for us as a company, as an organization. When you hear something like that, that really makes it worth it. And you know, we have families too, we have kids, and we have busy lives, and you know, we know the real value in that. And the fact that we can give that to you gives us great pleasure, to serve you in that way and to serve your family and your patients. And so that's become more important as we continue to evolve as a company, and we, define our core values and our culture.
Yeah.
That becomes an integral part of it. So thank you so much for sharing that, because that really resonates with us. And I would say to any doctor, GP, or ortho out there that feels so inclined to try to manage these ClinChecks themselves, I mean, obviously they're probably capable and they're more than welcome to do that, but it becomes a matter of valuing their time. And that's really where we make a significant impact, of course, in parallel to clinical value.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Thank you both for being here.
Yeah, we're gonna have fun. Let's have a follow up and down the road, and let's chat again. I know that we'll keep in touch, but let's have a follow up down the road.
That would be great. Thanks again for having us.
You bet. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
To,
have a good night. Great show.
Have a good evening.
Thanks to the Canadian too. Bye, y'all.
The German Texas Canadian.
Yeah.
Good night, y'all. Thank you.
Are
you bringing Jeff back?
Maybe. Hey, Jeff.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know that I had a purpose here anymore.
So we're doing this now.
Hey, Jeff. It's not just you that didn't have a purpose. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But hey, so people might be wondering why we're wearing these hats, and it's because I think that
you might be wondering why the other end of this rope is tied to a cinder block.
Our good friends at Vista Apex, and I think this is very fitting that we were talking about clear aligner therapy, because they were asking what we all think about our etch. And so they came out with an etch called Velvet Etch. Yes.
You like that?
And
say Velvet Etch again.
Is from. There you go. Yes. Yes. So Velvet Etch.
This is the apex of my night, Chad.
And the vista of your life. Yeah. So I believe that not all etches are created equally. This is a very royal etch, but it is 40% phosphoric acid. It will stay put right where you place it, so it's not runny, so it's perfect for clear aligner therapy. It's purple. I mean, who wouldn't want purple etch? And just to demonstrate how fantastic this etch is, it's glycerin free too. I might need to add that. You can etch both dentin and enamel. And just to prove how fantastic it is, we played a little game with the Vista Apex. So it's kind of like.
Can I say something first, Chad? Because I haven't got to talk the whole time, and I really.
Oh, bless.
Well, no, you can look at the little chat room there. I just.
You were doing a good job.
Yeah, I was just trying to say something, but I will say this, and by the way, we are not being paid to do this right now, but these are our friends at Vista Apex, and we do get to try out a lot of really, really cool products. And I am absolutely in love with this etch because it stays exactly where you put it. So I am a big proponent of only etching enamel. I try to keep etch off of the dentin. I'm a selective etch kind of guy. And you can really, with the small cannula tip and the way that this gel stays put, it's really easy to use the selective etch technique, which is, for me, it doesn't get any better. And we do have examples of how well it stays in place, don't we, Chad?
I believe we do. So it's kind of like an old Saturday Night Live skit. And right now we're going to do drawings.
Oh, okay.
Well, my name is Simon. And I love to do drawings. Hang on, I can't see. I have sunglasses on.
Okay, so who goes first?
I'm still creating.
Are you still creating?
Oh, my face.
So
Is that an eye patch?
Yes.
Ahoy there, me hearty.
Yarr.
It's
Arr,
a
me
pirate
hearty.
party. So I just want to explain what this is. This is Jennifer Bell with a couple blacked out teeth because she's a dentist. And then she's got an eye patch on.
And I'm continually missing those that you blacked out.
She's a dentist pirate. And then she's also, because it really drives her nuts, she's got little forehead wrinkles and a goatee to be like Jeff. And she's got a tooth tattoo on her arm because she's a dentist. And she's got a big old heart pendant with a J and C in the middle of it on her chest, just to show how much she loves Jeff.
I love y'all. How come? I feel like you went super Southern with that, as if, you know, I'm trying not to be offended, but.
All right.
But you are missing a couple teeth. Ooh.
So, as everyone knows, Chad went and had a little Botox procedure done. So I thought I would capture the pre-Botox Chad. Those heavy lines, yeah, those are real, people. Those are not just Vista Apex etching gel. Those are real lines.
It looks like Frank and Chad.
Oh, you
Frank
did.
getting a goatee to be like Jeff. Wow.
You like that? Oh,
I
and
like
you got
that.
really bushy eyebrows too before you
Yeah.
had them plucked.
Yeah. Let's see what you got, JB.
Guys, I don't have either one of you.
Oh,
Really?
You're gonna rag on somebody else? This is
I
awesome.
am, and I actually don't even know him.
Oh, okay,
I know
let's see who
of
it is.
him, but I don't know him.
Who is it? Oh man, you got Josh Austin.
And I gave him earrings, but it was really hard with all the facial hair to get more creative with
Yeah,
Etch. Like,
yeah, yours kind of sucks. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey,
yours
I
is
even,
great.
I even wrote, look how well I could do this. I even wrote Chad Duplantis.
That's how good
Chad
it
Duplantis.
So,
So,
like,
Dr. Austin, I hear you're great, and I'm looking forward to maybe meeting you at the AGD meeting in a couple weeks. And I'm sorry I defiled your face because we've never actually even had a conversation.
well, hey, it's okay because he's happy to meet you too, and now he knows your true colors. So there you go.
But the Etch, I mean, seriously.
Yeah, it ain't going anywhere, folks.
Yeah.
It ain't going anywhere. Best etch ever. So, hey, a big shout out to our friends at Vista Apex, Ashley, Mandy. I guess we'll be able to meet. You'll be able to meet Josh Austin, who's a good friend of mine, in a couple weeks. And that's about all I got for tonight.
Hey, and anyone who wants to tune in this Friday, this is the last part
Oh, yeah.
of our 3-part sleep series that we're doing with our good friends at Midway Education Center. This Friday, we're going to be doing from 10 to 12 Eastern. We're going to be doing troubleshooting, sleep apnea therapy, and appliance therapy. So tune in for that. That'll be a lot of fun. Yeah. So that'll be a ton of fun.
Well, hear ye, hear ye. I guess the show has come to a close. You got a small head, JB.
I have a really little head. Look
I
at
do
that.
have a really small head.
Mine's giving me a headache, man. It's on so tight.
Whoa,
Look.
look at Jeff.
If it weren't for my nose, it would keep going. My nose is the only thing keeping it from going further. It's why I can't drink out of a champagne glass. All right.
This was a much more bigger crown than I originally thought it might be, which is actually really great. I thought it was just going to be one of those.
Well, look at me. I'm a king of the castle.
Hey,
all right, let's get off the air now. We're done.
Are you looking at my bum?
Are you looking at my bum? You little bum, look at you.
All right, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks, Clear TPS, and thanks, Vista Apex.
Thanks,
And thanks,
Vista
Jeff and
Apex.
Jennifer.
Good night, Chatty.